Hi folks, and welcome to Act 5 Scene 3 of Macbeth. We are almost at the end, a couple of big scenes still to go and a few short ones as well. In today's video we're looking at Act 5 Scene 3, so this is a section of the play where we see Macbeth start to fall into despair, but at the same time he wants to keep fighting because he thinks that he's invincible. And the reason why he believes that he is invincible is the prophecies that the witches gave him in Act 4. So your job now is to stop the video, write down what those prophecies were, and then start the video again when you're ready. And here we go with the answers. They told him to beware Macduff. As a consequence of that, Macbeth slaughtered Macduff's family. Then the witches told him that he cannot be killed by anyone of woman born. They said, be bloody, bold and resolute, but none of woman born shall harm Macbeth. So actually, in Act 4, Macbeth thinks, well, I'm going to slaughter Macduff's family to be sure, but I don't need to worry about him because he's been born from a woman. Like, everyone's been born from a woman, haven't they? Then the witches say, Macbeth shall never vanquished, never defeated be, until great Birnam Wood to high Dunsinane Hill shall come against him. And we talked about this in the last video in Act 5 Scene 2. Macbeth's thinking there is no way that the woods could get up and march towards this castle and, take me on in battle. That's just not going to happen. However, in Act 5 Scene 2 we see some soldiers approaching Birnam Wood. So those of us in the audience who are paying attention are probably going to be thinking, okay, something's going on here, the witches have tricked Macbeth. And then they show Macbeth Banquo's line of kings, and the final one has a mirror held up to reflect all of the kings that are going to go down in the future. So this is the scene that we're looking at, and there's quite a few references to these prophecies in the scene. So your job as I'm reading through this is to highlight if you've got a copy of the text, or to jot down where you spot the prophecies in this section of the scene. At the start of the scene, Macbeth, the doctor and some attendants, so some servants, come in, and Macbeth's in the middle of a conversation. He says, bring me no more reports, let them fly all. So people have been bringing him reports about the number of soldiers that are amassing outside the castle. And we learn later in the scene that there's 10,000 soldiers accompanying Malcolm and Macduff, which is a huge number of people at this time in history. And Macbeth then says, till Birnam Wood remove to Dunsinane, I cannot taint with fear. What's the boy Malcolm? Was he not born of woman? The spirits that know all mortal consequences have pronounced me thus. Fear not, Macbeth, no man that's born of woman shall ever have power over thee. Then fly, false thanes, and mingle with the English epicures. The mind I sway by and the heart I bear shall never sag with doubt, nor shake with fear. And then a servant comes in, and Macbeth shouts at the servant for interrupting him. The devil damn thee, black, thou cream-faced loon, where gotst thou that goose look? So the servant seems to be looking pretty afraid, and Macbeth says he's looking like a goose, that's how afraid he looks. So he's making fun of the servant, and the servant says there is 10,000 geese-filling soldiers, sir. And Macbeth responds and says, we shouldn't be afraid of this. I'm invincible. Go prick thy face and overred thy fear, thou lily-livered boy. What soldiers, Patch? Death of thy soul, those linen cheeks of thine are counsellors to fear. What soldiers, Wayface? The English force, so please you. Take thy face hence. Exit servant. Okay, so what references to the prophecies did you spot? Well, here they are. Macbeth first talks about Birnam Wood moving to Dunsinane, and he says he's not going to be afraid until that happens. That's impossible anyway. So Macbeth is not going to be scared. And then he says, what's the boy Malcolm? Was he not born of woman? So Macbeth thinks, well, Malcolm can't hurt me. His mother was a woman. And then he quotes, or at least he thinks he quotes, the witches' prophecies. So he says, fear not, Macbeth, no man that's born of woman shall ever have power upon thee. Now, that's not quite what the witches says. It's kind of close, but not quite there. You've got the right quotation on the side there. And that shows just how Macbeth's mind is changing things. His memory isn't quite accurate. And that's probably part of the manipulation. He doesn't actually quite remember what the witches have said to him. And he certainly doesn't realise how they could have tricked him at this point. Now, in the next section of the scene, we have two juxtaposing images, and these reveal Macbeth's state of mind, which becomes quite conflicted. He's got kind of two states of mind in the next bit of the scene. On the one hand, he's talking about his life as being like a yellow leaf, and on the other hand, he's calling for his armour. So stop the video. I want you to jot down what you think these two images could represent, and then start the video again when you're ready. So the yellow leaf is all about endings, decline, approach to death, and despair. The reason why it symbolises that is that leaves go yellow in the autumn when they fall from the trees. So yellow leaves or brown leaves are all about endings, death, decay, and so on, the approach to the coldness of winter. So Macbeth's kind of saying his life is coming to an end. He thinks, I'm an old man now, I'm isolated, my wife is really ill, I've got all of this stress going on, things are going wrong for me. But on the other hand, he's calling for his armour, and this is an echo of that celebrated heroism in Act 1, Scene 2, which was really the pinnacle of Macbeth's character. When he defeated MacDonald, he defeated the invading army, and then he was rewarded by Duncan. And so this armour symbolises courage, strength, physical power, defeating one's enemies. So when Macbeth is calling for that armour, it's almost as if he wants to put on that identity again, to get rid of his borrowed robes, to get rid of the kingship in some way, and to reclaim that identity of being a soldier. So here's the rest of the scene. Macbeth starts by calling for a servant, Satan. I know it sounds quite like Satan as in the devil. Don't know if that's accidental or not on Shakespeare's part, but he calls for his servant, Satan. And then he says to himself, I'm sick at heart, as in I'm tired, I'm distressed, I'm tormented, I'm fed up with all of this. I'm sick of heart when I behold Satan, I say. This push will cheer me or ever or deceit me now. As in, this push, this attack by Malcolm's army will either cheer me, as in I could win this, or deceit me, remove me from my seat, remove me from my throne. So I could win this or I could lose this. And then he seems pretty in despair here. I have lived long enough. My way of life has fallen into the sere. Sere means withered. So my way of life has withered away. The yellow leaf and that which should accompany old age, as honour, love, obedience, troops of friends, I must not look to have. So he has no honour left. He's killed the king, for goodness sake. He has no love. His wife is really ill. She's in mental anguish. She's in psychological distress. She can't help him anymore. He doesn't really have obedient servants anymore. He's calling for his servant Satan, and Satan's not turning up. Troops of friends, well, all his friends have left him. He's lost everything that he had. So as honour, love, obedience, troops of friends, I must not look to have, but in their stead curses, not loud but deep, mouth honour, breath, which the poor heart would fain deny, and dare not. Mouth honour is an interesting phrase there. It means that people are saying, yes, my lord, yes, my king, yes, I agree with you. They're saying the right thing, but Macbeth knows that in their heads they aren't loyal to him. And then he calls for Satan again, and finally, on the third occasion, Satan enters, and he says, what's your gracious pleasure? What news more? All is confirmed, my lord, which was reported. And then Macbeth seems galvanised here. So he moves from the despair to wanting to fight. And he says, I'll fight till from my bones my flesh be hacked. Give me my armour. So this has taken us back to Act 1, Scene 2, when he carved his passage through the opposing army. And Satan says, 'tis not needed yet. I'll put it on. Send out more horses, scur the country round, hang those that talk of fear. Give me mine armour. How does your patient, doctor? And the doctor says, so this is Lady Macbeth they're talking about, the doctor says, not so sick, my lord, as she is troubled with thick coming fancies that keep her from her rest. Now, earlier on in the play, Lady Macbeth called for thick night, and she's got thick night here. Her darkness, her despair, her torment is so thick that she cannot escape it. And Macbeth says, Curer of that, canst thou not minister to a mind diseased, pluck from the memory a rooted sorrow, raze out the written troubles of the brain, and with some sweet oblivious antidote cleanse the stuffed bosom of that perilous stuff which weighs upon the heart? So Macbeth says, can you not cure a psychological illness? Maybe he's talking about himself a little bit here as well as Lady Macbeth. And the doctor says therein the patient must minister to himself. So the doctor does not know how to cure mental illness. Thank goodness, I know that cures aren't easy these days. However, thank goodness we do have treatment for mental illness now, because it seems that in Shakespeare's time and Macbeth's time, they really didn't. And Macbeth continues, oh, throw physic to the dogs, I'll none of it. So he's sick of physicians, he's sick of doctors. If they can't cure mental illness, what use are they? And then he calls for his armour again. Come, put mine armour on, give me my staff. He wants to put on this identity of the strong, brave, courageous, successful, respected soldier. Satan, send out, Doctor, the Thanes fly from me. Come, sir, dispatch, if thou couldst, Doctor, cast the water of my land, find her disease, and purge it to a sound and pristine health, I would applaud thee to the very echo that should applaud again. So here he's asking the doctor about the illness of my land, Scotland's illness. He doesn't just want Lady Macbeth to be cured or himself to be cured. He wants Scotland to be cured from the disease. Pull it off, I say. What rhubarb senna or what purgative drug would scar these English hence? Here's thy of them. So Macbeth is talking to lots of different people on stage, giving instructions, but also talking to the doctor about the illness that Scotland feels. And the doctor says, aye, my good lord, your royal preparation makes us hear something. And Macbeth, bring it after me. I will not be afraid of death and bane till Burnham Forest come to Dunsinane. Exeunt all except the doctor. I from Dunsinane away and clear. Prophet again should hardly draw me here. He wants to be away from this place. Macbeth seems to be going mad. He's giving lots of instructions. He's talking about lots of different illnesses. He wants to fight, and the doctor just wants to be out of this situation. Okay, final task for you. Now, this is a just right task, so I'm not giving you any sentence starters for this. What I want you to do is just write what you know about Macbeth's mental state in this scene. Because there's no sentence starters, it's writing about what you understand, trying to get it down on the page in whatever order, whatever words you need to know, just get it down there. This is about building your confidence and about building your ability to write without having sentence starters or a guide from me. Okay, enjoy doing that. Spend maybe about 5 minutes on that task. The next video will be on Act 5, Scene 4.